What would be your reaction if you ever discover that the man you married was actually the one who gave birth to you? Lock up your doors and let's dive into this amazing story of Nkechi. Nkechi was a very rich girl who had lost her mother a few years ago. She was very beautiful and had all that a man would ever want in a woman. She lived with her aunt and her husband in the busy city of Lagos. She was very rich and beautiful, but yet no man wanted to marry her. All the men she ever dated only used her and dumped her. No serious man came by her. This became a serious problem for her because she actually wanted to settle down and have her own home. One day, Nkechi had a very hectic day at work. She decided to hang out with some of her friends at a nightclub in order to clear her head. She began to complain on how badly she needed a man in her life, promising that she would take care of whatever the man wanted that money could buy. Her friends tried begging her to take it easy on herself, but she paid deaf ears to their warning, telling them that she was tired of being single. That rainy night, when Nkechi came back from the nightclub, her aunt was very worried, pacing around the parlor as she waited for Nkechi to return. Where the hell are you coming from this time of the night? Do you want to give me high blood pressure?
Baby, what is going on here? Why the noise? Don't you know it is late?
You better ask this your useless niece. Did we commit a crime by taking care of her? Get married, she said no. Or you be useful to yourself now, she said no. What else does she want us to do now?
Come on, you know that Nkechi is no longer a child. She is now a grown woman, right? She can make her own choices now. Nkechi felt hot on Auntie Kaima's word as she walked into her room. Tears trickled down her cheeks as she remembered the numerous breakups she had suffered in the past. She picked up her late mother's picture and she remembered how her father abandoned her mother when he got to know that she was pregnant years ago. She remembered how her mother kept on struggling to give her a better life until the day she died. Auntie Kaima then came and took her to the city to live with her and her family. As all this dirty remembrance kept on recurring back in her brain, she kept on weeping as she slept off very late that night.
The next morning, Nkechi was woken up by the whistles coming out from Auntie Kaima's kitchen as she prepared breakfast. She then realized that she was running late for work and her street boss would not be happy with her. She quickly took a shower and put on few clothes, hurriedly walking out of the house without bothering to take food. She hurried outside and was disappointed when she discovered that the Uber she booked was nowhere to be found. She became very worried and her anxiety grew when she discovered that she was really running late. She was still contemplating on what to do when a big jeep pulled beside her. A rich old man wind down the glass of the car and offered to give her a free ride to her office, but she refused, telling him that her Uber was on its way. The old man still insisting on giving her the free ride, and Nkechi on the other hand, realizing that she was really going late for work, accepted the offer and they drove down to her office. The man later asked for her name and her number, which she gave him gladly without suspecting anything. Later that day, Chief Amadi gave her a phone call while she was still at work and asked if they could be able to meet up in a restaurant the following day. Nkechi smiled and shyly accepted the offer. Nkechi went the following day to the supposed restaurant, still not suspecting anything in mind, and she met Chief Amadi waiting for her at the reception table. He was so happy to see her. They began to chat and have fun together, and that was how Chief Amadi began to see Nkechi every day. He would take her to shop at the biggest mall in the city, allowing her to take whatever she wanted, and he usually pays for it. Nkechi was actually confused about this kindness towards her, but she decided not to say anything since she was actually benefiting from it. One day, Chief Amadi broke the shocking news to her. He told her about his desire to marry her
and Nkechi was overwhelmed.
She hesitated a little to answer, but after considering how many breakups she had suffered in the past, she decided to accept his proposal.
She then told him that she was ready to marry him.
Chief Amadi was overjoyed and he fixed a date for their wedding. When Nkechi told her friends about her marriage with the old man, they were very angry at her for accepting such a proposal without investigating his background very well. They kept on persuading her not to be in a rush, but she refused to listen to them, concluding in her heart that they were all jealous of her. You guys should all leave me alone. I'm done listening to you all and your lectures. I'm not a kid. You cannot advise me to do what I don't want to do. I must marry him and that is fine now, she said as she stood up and left her friends who were begging her to come back. Nkechi, just imagine, no? Does it mean that Nkechi walked out on us? This is serious, so please let's leave her or let her do what she wants to do so that she will not ruin our day. When Nkechi told Auntie Kaima about her desire to marry the old man, Auntie Kaima saw nothing wrong with it. As far as she was concerned, Nkechi was allowed to marry any man of her choice as far as the man was rich. Nkechi's uncle felt uncomfortable about the whole stuff. He had never seen in history
where a man proposed to a lady on the first week of their meeting. He tried to convince her against marrying in such a hurry, but his wife convinced him to allow Nkechi make her own choice, stating that she was now old enough to do what she wanted to do. Nkechi's ex-boyfriend came and begged her for how he treated her in the past and stated that he wanted to marry her, but she replied him no, that she was now getting married to someone else.
Nkechi, please now, we can make this work.
But Nkechi refused to listen to his apologies and concluded in her mind that she was going to marry Chief Amadi and nobody else. Few weeks later, Chief Amadi got married to Nkechi and he took her to his beautiful apartment. Nkechi was amazed as she looked around the big mansion in shock. Chief Amadi kept on looking at her and smiling and admiring how beautiful his new wife was. "I can see you love this house. Well, congratulations. This is now your home. I need to take my bath now. I will be back shortly." Nkechi kept on smiling in joy as she was happy with herself for marrying such a rich man. She began to dance like a child, joyfully, and mistakenly slipped and fell to the ground. While she was still trying to stand up, she noticed a brown envelope under the drawer. She took out the envelope and was about opening it when her husband came into the room and forcefully took the envelope from her. "You can take anything in this house, but don't you ever touch that envelope." Nkechi was amazed by her husband's change in mood. She had never seen her husband so angry like that before. It was then that she concluded that something must definitely be wrong somewhere. From that day, Nkechi began to notice her husband change in mood whenever she brought up the idea of the envelope. He would scold her, warning her never to ask him about it again. "Honey, are you actually hiding something from me? Is there something I need to know that I don't know?" "Woman, please leave me to sleep. I am not hiding anything from you. I just don't want you near that envelope. It is my document." But Nkechi could not understand why her husband would hide his documents from her, since they newly got married.
One night, Nkechi woke up and noticed that her husband was no longer lying down beside her. She sneaked to the parlor and saw her husband reading a letter and crying silently. She quietly monitored where he dropped the envelope and went back to bed, pretending that she didn't see anything. The next morning, when her husband left for work, she quickly rushed to where he dropped the envelope the previous night, and she noticed that the drawer was locked. She was deciding whether to break it or not, but then she concluded in her heart that her husband's property was hers, so she quickly broke the drawer and brought out the envelope. When she opened the envelope, she was shocked at what she saw. First of all, she saw some letters that her mother wrote to her father while she was about to die, begging him to come and take their daughter. She then saw her mom's picture and her dad, and this was the same picture that her mom gave her years ago before she died. Her mom had earlier told her that the picture had 2 copies and the other picture was with her real father. Nkechi screamed on realizing that the man she married was her wicked father, who abandoned her mother to suffer in the village. Her scream attracted the gatekeeper, who came in and inquired what the problem was. Nkechi kept on crying as she walked upstairs and began to pack all her belongings into a box. The gateman immediately called his boss, informing him of what was happening. Chief Amadi immediately came home, and when he tried to stop her, she slapped him and screamed, "Dad, you were so wicked. I don't want to ever set my eyes on you again." The gateman laughed as he heard the word dad. "Wait oh, can somebody explain for me what is going on here? Because I'm very confused." "Auntie, what do you mean by that? Does it mean that you married your father?" "Tufiakwa, abomination. Will you get out of here?" Chief Amadi ordered, still looking very shocked. He just watched as Nkechi took her luggages and left his house. He quietly moved to where he dropped the envelope and broke down in tears as he looked at his wife's picture. It was then that he realized that he was married to his own daughter. He had been looking for his daughter all around the village ever since he came back to his senses after his wife's death. He was looking for someone to take over his properties when he was no more. He regretted leaving his wife, and that was why he decided not to marry until that age. He only married recently when he was unable to find his daughter and he needed somebody to stay with him. Chief Amadi kept on weeping uncontrollably as he discovered that he got married to his own daughter, which was an abomination in their kingdom. The mates were very surprised on seeing what was going on. They began to gossip about the discussion. "My sister, are you hearing the latest news? Can you believe that the lady that Chief brought into this house as a new wife is his daughter?" "Yes, oh, my sister, that is what I also heard though." This is confusing. I don't just understand what is going on, no." "Well, time will tell." When Nkechi arrived at her aunt's house, her aunt became very worried when she saw Nkechi crying and holding her luggages. She tried to know what the problem was, but she refused to talk to anybody. Nkechi just locked herself up in her room. Her uncle became very worried. He had to call her friends to beg her to open the door. But Nkechi kept on weeping, refusing to open the door for anyone to come in. The next day, Chief Amadi came to their house and explained the situation to the rest of the family. They all opened their mouths in shock. None of them knew what to say at that particular time. Chief Amadi begged them to ask for his daughter's forgiveness, stating that he never knew the whereabouts of his daughter, so he just wanted a partner because he was very lonely. He told them that he regret his actions towards his late wife, stating that he did all that out of ignorance. He kept on begging Nkechi to open the door, but she refused. He had no other choice but left home, feeling very bad. Nkechi's friends kept on begging Nkechi to open the door, promising not to put any blame on her. She finally agreed and opened the door. They were very happy and they gave Nkechi what to eat because she hadn't eaten in 2 days. Then they explained what Chief Amadi said to her, but Nkechi screamed, saying that she didn't want to hear anything from that man that abandoned her mother and left them to suffer. Meanwhile, Chief Amadi was filled with guilt and he decided that he was going to commit suicide. He told himself that he had no use living because he had committed an abomination unknowingly. He sacked all his servants so that there would not be anyone to stop him from dying. The next day, when Nkechi came back from work, her aunt sat her down and began to talk to her. She began to explain to her reasons on why she should forgive her father and go back to him. She explained to her that her father needed her now more than ever. But Nkechi refused, reminding her auntie
of how her father abandoned her mother to suffer in the village. Nkechi angrily went to her room, but she was not able to sleep that night. She kept on deliberating on what her aunt had earlier told her. She took up her mother's picture and cried, and then decided to forgive her father and visit him the next day. When she arrived at Chief Amadi's house, she discovered that the place looked empty. She rushed to the parlor and saw her father unconscious and some poisonous drugs on the table. She immediately screamed and rushed him to the hospital. Her friends kept on comforting her, telling her that nothing will happen to her dad. When Chief Amadi finally woke up from unconsciousness, he broke down in tears when he saw his daughter crying beside him.
My daughter, I am very sorry for how I treated your mother in the past.
Dad, it's okay. You don't need to explain anything. I've forgiven you. Please just get well for me, okay?
My daughter, you are really amazing. Come over here, he said as he gave his daughter a hug. He was so happy to reunite with his family at last.
But Dad, there's still one problem. What should we do with the marriage certificate?
Oh, you mean that? Ha! I burnt it that very day I discovered that you are my daughter. Oh. No time to check time.
Dad, you are the best.
She said as she hugged her father tightly. The end. This story teaches us that forgiveness is the greatest key to come out from every emotional cage. To forgive might be very hard, but the joy that comes after it is undeniable. What will you do if you were Nkechi at that stage of her life? Drop your answer in the comment section below. I know you love this story. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories like this. And don't forget to share this story to your friends. See you in our next story. Don't miss out. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.